kingdom here, let the dawn.
Hello, Life Group leaders. It is once again time to look at my beautiful bald head as I give you some instructions for this week's Life Group. And I just want to go over a few things with you today. And first thing is continue to identify people that you're going to invest in outside the group. And I know you just had 1 week with people, but be praying about it even before you get to your life group and ask the Lord to help you identify who that will be, and just help your hearts connect in conversation. Pray that God will just show you who that is that you're supposed to invest in outside a group. Obviously, men with men and ladies with ladies. And guys, whenever you think about investing in other guys outside the group, think things like activities or food. Guys build relationships shoulder to shoulder. We also like to eat. And so those are two good things. Take somebody out to lunch, find some activity you both mutually enjoy. Go to a ball game together. If you got kids and you're going to go watch one of your kids' games, call so-and-so and ask if they want to go with you. Ladies, think coffee and conversation. If you don't like coffee, grab a soda. I say that for my wife's benefit. But at any rate, be looking at who you can invest in outside of the group, because we're going to have to make that investment outside the group to bring people along in their spiritual growth. And I think it's important for us also, as we're thinking about investing, don't look at people as a project. Get to know them, find out what their story is. Make sure you share your story before you ever dive into spiritual things. And so it may take 2 or 3 meetings outside of the group before you ever get into spiritual conversations about where they're at in their faith journey and where you've been and those kind of things. But take the time to invest in them and find out their story, and you share yours before you delve into those things. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm their project. So, also, I want you to know that next weekend is the September 22nd and 23rd. We're going to have our second discipleship boot camp. So if you have anybody in your group that you think would be interested, please make that contact with them this Sunday night. And then please contact me if they're interested in doing that, because the trainers are going to have a meeting on Monday night, and then we're going to do that training this following, or the 22nd, 23rd. And so we want to make sure we have adequate supplies for everything. So please do that. Contact me if you have anybody that you think would be good and is willing to go through it. It's going to be Friday night from 6 to 9, and then Saturday from 8 to 4. Breakfast and lunch is provided on that Saturday, and we're going to have snacks and everything else the whole duration. And so, also, then I wanted to briefly touch on the lesson for this week. If you are storying this week, that's a hard word to say, storying. If you're telling the story this week, you've got a really easy job, because it's like 6 verses. It's Luke 9:57 through 10:1, and it's the story of the cost of following Jesus and the different ones that Jesus encounters and their approach to following Jesus. But it's a real short one to recount. But I did want to make you aware, in the packet that you have, as you know, each week you've got the first 4 questions, which are: what do you learn about Jesus in this story? What is Jesus teaching the disciples? What is Jesus teaching you personally? And how can you disciple people as Jesus did in this story? So, as you know, all 4 of those questions are the same every week. But what they have done is they accidentally took the questions from last week over forgiving and just duplicated them in week 15. And so all the questions are on forgiveness that really apply to week 14. They just put them over in week 15 again. And so I've got some potential questions for you to ask. Number 1 is, which type of follower do you most identify with, and why? Number 2, what are the things that are holding you back from wholeheartedly following the Lord? And number 3, where is God sending you to proclaim the kingdom? And so those are 3 questions. You don't have to use those, but those are just conversation starters if you want to use those. Also, I want to just I just want to share with you what I saw in this passage as I was reading it today, that there really are 4 kind of followers in this passage. The first one is overzealous. Jesus didn't go to him and say, follow me. He just comes to Jesus and he says, I will follow you wherever you go. And he forgets to count the cost. And as far as Jesus then replies to him, the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Yeah, that's right. Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. And so this man's really overzealous. Jesus, I'll go wherever you want me to. And he doesn't stop to think what that's going to cost him. Then the second type is a little bit reluctant. Jesus goes to him and says, follow me. But he says, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. And so he's reluctant. Yeah, Jesus, I'll follow you, but let me do this other stuff first. Thirdly, there's one that I'm calling the on my time follower. Jesus looks at another one and another one comes to Jesus and says, I will follow you, but let me first say farewell to those at my home. And so like he's looking back and he's thinking about all of the stuff that he's going to leave, but he wants to do these things first. And so it's the on my time follower. And then lastly, you see Jesus sent out 72 others. And he sent them out 2 by 2, and those were obedient followers as he gave them a command, and they went out before him into the places where Jesus was going to go. And so anyway, that's the 4 types that I found in there. Obviously, I'm not infallible in that. You might even call them different things as you're going through. But I do believe you see at least 4 different types of followers in that passage. And you can use those questions that I gave you earlier to spark some conversation in your group. I hope things are going well in your groups. And please, please, please reiterate with your groups every week to be inviting new people. I mean, I know that some of your houses are absolutely bursting at the seams, and I'm so excited about that. I think that is a great problem to have, and to me, whenever that happens, people will be excited to come because everybody's there, and they'll get to see one another and fellowship with one another, and they'll also know it's a meaningful time for those that are there. And so, thank you for taking the time to invest in others and facilitate these groups, and may God be glorified in them, and may people be discipled who will then go and make disciples. So I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope you look forward to life groups on Sunday night. Contact me if you have any questions. Thanks.
Let's win this